So me and Emma are wanting to start a family in the fairly near future. So we did a number of different tests to see how her body is doing on a vegan diet.
Roll the titles. Yes, I've always wanted to do that.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow this done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before I jump into the video, just a quick reminder that I'm now offering the SIBO, organic acid, stool tests and consults via my website. So if you have any health or digestive problems, then consider taking these tests as they will provide a lot of very detailed information upon which you can start making informed decisions and then start getting your health back on track. And on that bombshell, to the video. So the first test that you can see on screen is Emma's plasma homocysteine. Homocysteine is formed from dietary methionine, which is an amino acid. High levels of homocysteine are associated with a number of different diseases and particularly heart disease. The reference range for this is up to 12 micromoles per litre. Emma is nice and low at 6.3. Homocysteine is also a good indicator of your folates, your vitamin B12, B2 and B6 status, because these vitamins act as cofactors for the metabolism of homocysteine. So if these vitamins are low, then you will likely see your homocysteine shoot up. Next up, we see Emma's retinol A, alpha carotene and also beta carotene. Vitamin A is the name of a group of fat-soluble retinoids, including retinol, retinal and also retinol esters. So Emma's level is 2.09 micromoles per litre and the reference range is 1.05 to 2.8, so nice and high. The alpha and beta carotene numbers below the main retinol number are the plant pigments that are converted into vitamin A. So these will fluctuate on the test depending on the alpha and beta rich foods that you've eaten before the test, but what you are concerned with here is the main vitamin A number, which she is very good on. And the last two markers on this page are her vitamin C and vitamin E, and these are fine and perfectly within range. On the next page we have Emma's hematology and biochemistry markers, so if we quickly run through these. So Emma's hemoglobin is 140 grams per litre and the reference range is 115 to 155. Hemoglobin is a protein found in the red blood cells that carries oxygen in your body and gives blood its red colour, so she has a good reference range here. Next up is Emma's HCT. HCT is the volume percentage of red blood cells in blood. So the reference range is 0.33 to 0.45 and Emma's level was 0.401, so spot on. Her red cell count is what it says on the tin, so it tells you how many red cells you have in your blood. Emma's result was 4.39 with a reference range of 3.95 to 5.15, so again very good. Now I'm not going to go through every other marker on this page as we'd be here all day, but below the red cell count you have other hematology and immune system markers. Emma's markers are all very good with the slight exception of her white cell count. Over the Christmas period while taking these tests, Emma had man flu, which is why her white cell marker was 0.03 over the reference range, but this would be perfectly fine if it was retested now. Below this you have Emma's biochemistry markers in the form of her active B12 and her red cell folate markers. Her B12 levels are slightly high, which means that she can back off her dose of her B12 supplement, and her red cell folate levels are perfectly fine. So the final part of this test looks at Emma's endocrinology, so her thyroid function. So the first marker is the TSH, or the thyroid stimulating hormone. This is a pituitary hormone marker that stimulates the thyroid gland to produce the hormones T3 and T4. So Emma has very good levels of TSH as well as T3 and T4, which means that her thyroid is purring away very nicely. Below this we also have Emma's thyroid antibodies. Obviously if these were high, then you would be seeing thyroid disease as the immune system attacks the thyroid gland. For Emma, she is perfectly healthy and normal within these ranges. The next test is a C-reactive protein test, which measures the amount of inflammation in her body. And as you would expect on a plant-based diet, her inflammatory markers are very low. The next test covers a few other nutrients in the form of calcium, chromium, copper, iron and magnesium, and she has good levels for all of these. So the next test is Emma's toxic elements within her blood, and this is essentially a screen of toxic elements using inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry. Fancy scientific speak for a measure of toxic elements you don't want in the blood in high levels. So as you can see on screen, this test covers aluminium, arsenic, all the way through to tin. Given that we generally try to eat organic and we have a very good water filter, it would have been a surprise if any of these numbers would have been elevated. So for things like arsenic and barium, there was none detected, and for other toxic elements, she was very low and within the reference ranges. Obviously, you would want all of the heavy metals to be non-existent, but this is never going to happen in the world in which we live today, so it's making sure that you minimize your exposure as best as possible. The final test we did on Emma was a comprehensive stool test. So if we quickly run through this, no dysbiotic bacteria detected, which would appear in the red section. Her beneficial bacteria and commensal bacterial levels are very good. She has good amounts of species such as lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, which are really important for overall gut health and integrity. In terms of Emma's digestion and absorption, that was all very good, so no signs of any carbohydrate or fat malabsorption. Also, Emma's elastase marker is very good. So elastase is just a pancreatic enzyme that helps degrade certain proteins in the body. Below that are the inflammatory markers, so things like lactoferrin, calprotectin, lysozyme, white blood cells, and also mucus. So if these types of markers are significantly elevated, then it can allude to things like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. So Emma is obviously perfectly good on all of these markers and fronts. Below this is Emma's secretory IgA. So the secretory IgA is the immune barrier in the gut, or the gut's first line of defense. If there are fluctuations within this marker, it can indicate infection or problems with food intolerance, but Emma is perfectly fine and within range. So next up we have the production of short chain fatty acids such as acetate, propionate and butyrate. So these have many important functions within the body, such as feeding colon cells as well as being converted into neurotransmitters. So Emma's levels, as you would expect from somebody who eats high amounts of fibre, is obviously very good. And the last markers you can see on screen there are Emma's intestinal health markers, which looks at her red blood cells and also the occult blood. She is perfectly fine and within reference range for both of these markers, so all very good. So as you can see, despite being on an anti-nutrient deficient diet, Emma is actually doing very well, so no need to drink urine anytime soon. We will be doing some additional hormone testing on her in the near future, as well as a full barrage of tests on me, which I will release on my channel in due course. So that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.